All right, motherfuckers, we're continuing the series from here. Today our goal is to get a lot of work done. Right now we have the bottom rail done for the right side. Now we just need to mimic this. I've struggled a little bit with the tube bending, but I did some practicing and I did a little research and development and fucked up about 15, 16 feet of tube, no big deal. But I finally got all the tube I need and I'm pretty sure I know how to use this tube bender pretty well now. Tube bending does have quite a bit of a learning curve if you've never done it before, but I figured it out. So basically I just need to recreate this. Yeah, this is our lower right here. We have a 80-degree bend with a 33-degree offset and another 33-degree bend here as well. Meaning that if this is completely straight, then this is tilted at a 33-degree angle because it has to turn like this to match up with the down tube. It's kind of hard to show in video with only one hand, but yeah, that's how it does it. One of my favorite things about having a jig like this is that I can just write down things that I need to remember, like 33-degree offset, 53 is how long I need my lowers to be. That way I still have plenty of room to bend the tube and I have enough room to chop off just a little bit. We've got Jax the dog with us. Jax! Just another thing to remember with this particular die and a lot of these dies, that wherever you make your mark, the bend starts about 7/8 of an inch after that. So wherever you make your mark, you want to know that your bend's going to start after that. Now you can go in from the front or the back depending on what type of bends that you want. I always go in from the back, giggity giggity. It's important to stay consistent with that as well. I'm going to put about 4 inches outside of where I make my mark so I can make sure that the collar and retaining pin have plenty to grab onto. There we go. Remember, you always want to make a mark when you start your bend. We need an 80-degree bend here. So preload, lock it down nice and tight, zero out your bender, start bending. I know I said 80, we actually need a 79-degree bend, which won't be a problem with this. And it's always important to remember that you do have spring back with this tube, so you have to actually bend a little bit farther than where you want to go to get your bend. These are a 3-speed tube benders made by Woodward Fab. Really solid company. So to change the speed, move that, let it back, drop it in. Now we just keep going. How far are we at? Getting close to 79. So we're actually probably gonna go to about 81. Because if you notice when I let off the pressure, it goes back. So we're gonna go a little bit farther than 79. Just a little bit. How's that? That'll work. And there we have our 79-degree bend. This is where marking your material actually kind of pays off because I can, in fact, either go with the measurements that I have. I know where the bend ends and I can measure from hilt to next bend. But what I'm going to do is, because I'm being lazy, I'm going to get these lined up as good as I can, or as close as I can, and I'm just going to kind of carry that line over. This particular bend is a 33-degree offset at a 33-degree angle. Now I need to replicate that, except mirror it on this side. So I need to have a 33-degree bend offset this way. And to do that, just use an angle finder. If you're gonna be doing projects like this, I highly suggest you invest in both an analog and a digital angle finder, and a dog that likes to come over here and get in your shots. Now, the reason I'm using both of these is because, you know, they're great for different things. This is great for finding really simple angles. This is great for finding angles that are kind of harder to do. So for instance, if I put it on the floor right now and I zero it out, then I put it on our angle here, it says 33 degrees exactly, which means I did a pretty all right job. And if I level out our other bend here, zero it as well, then put it up here, it says 33 exactly as well. So 33-degree bend and a 33-degree offset, which is really nice. So now we just need to have the exact same bend facing in the opposite direction. Now this is where I've messed up on more than one occasion because I'm an idiot. But the biggest thing that I kept forgetting was that in fact the bend goes this way, and I kept wanting to put it in where the bend goes up. And I don't know why I kept doing that. It's a mental thing, probably a disorder of some sort. Shove our tubing all up in there, like so. You want to make sure that you always use the same place to mark. I always use the front of the bending die. You can use your collar, which it kind of moves around a bit, so I don't suggest doing that. but I always use the front of the die. We need a 33-degree offset, so something along the lines of that, but we're gonna measure it just to be super safe and secure about this whole thing. I don't wanna mess up any more tubing. Is this the appropriate way to do things? No, it's the easiest way that I can remember it without fucking things up. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to zero out on my bender. I'm going to put this on the tube and tilt it until it reaches 33 degrees. And then tighten it down. Boom, 33 degree, money. Remember, we need to go a little bit over 33 to make sure we get the appropriate bends. And I'm sure there's people wondering how much force does it take to do this. It's really not a lot once you have the tube bender nice and locked in place. It doesn't take a whole lot of force. Yep, 33 degrees. I've only messed up about 10 pieces of tube doing this, so trial and error, right? And look at that, we have 2 pieces with identical bends, just at different offsets. So now we got our 2 bottom rails done. What do we got to do next? We're gonna do the main rail next. We're gonna do the main rail next. It needs to come out straight, probably at a 45-degree angle, and then another 45-degree angle. Created this little outline of kind of where the shape of the engine is. I figured it'd be somewhere around here, which is perfect, you know. This is where the last mounting brackets for the engine go. Supposed to kind of tack everything together first, because when you weld, it gets really hot, and heat warps.
Why you wanna promise a bridge when there is no water to be found?
Alexa, volume 1. All right, so we've actually made a lot of progress in the past couple of days here. I've been on and off on the build, just, you know, working on stuff too, but so here's where we're at so far. I just put the wheel in there to kind of get an idea of how it's gonna sit. I'm glad that I'm going to chain drive, specifically because there's really not a whole lot of clearance. I didn't exactly plan for that, but once you get a chain drive, it's gonna get rid of this belt, and it's gonna put a sprocket, and we're gonna have all the clearance that we need. That being said, we've got the down tube, the bottom rails, the 1 support rail, and now we've got the main rail here. That's where the gas tank sits and whatnot. A couple people are saying it looks short. It actually has the same wheelbase as the original frame over there does. So what we're going to do today, now we need to make the rear strut supports. So basically we just need a piece that goes from here, bends in, and connects to the main rail here. Now there's a lot of different ideas that I have for this as far as like which angle I want to use. I think I want to use a 90-degree bend. I've got a couple of cheater tubes that I've made here that's going to really help kind of figure out the length and the angle. You know, I mean, 90 degrees is not hard to do, but basically just something like this that goes straight back and connects. And by doing a 90-degree like this, give me a little bit more clearance and just should look a little bit neater overall. And then basically I'll just scalp the tube out and then weld it to that. So now we need two 90-degree bends with some length behind it. And I do want to talk about something before we get started. YouTube's in kind of a funny spot right now. I figured I'd just talk about this real briefly. Right now, basically, a bunch of advertisers are leaving YouTube. I'm really hoping that this whole thing will eventually blow over and everyone will come back and things will be great. You never know. But, you know, basically advertisements are what, you know, pay me and allow me to do cool stuff like this. And so if you see an ad, you know, it's really good for me. And in the meantime, if you want to support the channel, you know, I still have merchandise for sale. If you want a hoodie or my OG 69 bottles. I also have key tags, and even the Dickhead Nation flags are still a thing. So if you feel like supporting the channel while things are kind of fucky right now, you know, check out some of the merchandise that I have. There's links in the description. I promise you won't be disappointed by the quality of this stuff. And then back to what we were doing. Alexa, volume 4.
To explain the same, how painful the hangover was today.
Right, Keeps. You guys remember the song? Made a video about it a couple years ago.
Now you gotta realize that you're not enough to be a celebrity like all the people on your TV. You could do with a nip and tuck and a major operation that could fuck you up.
So because of the weird angles on these bends and whatnot, I had actually scalped them out myself. Basically, just took an angle grinder and got it to where they would go get against each other. I will weld these to the frame now.
6 to 8 weeks to completely heal. Count backwards, here comes the numbness. Don't be afraid, it's just a taste of blood. Yes, you'll feel free with a little plastic surgery.
I don't want to make it so you sit inside of here, kind of like this. Just got to make sure that the seat is going to clear the wheel. Well, this is basically the layout of the frame. There is going to be a couple of extra like stabilization points. There's going to be gussets here, probably a gusset here, and a support bar between each one of these here, so just make sure it stays nice and still. And obviously there's going to be a big gusset in between here, where this whole neck area is. I'm waiting on my plasma cutter to show up so I can make a really clean cut. That'd be really, really awesome when I do that. But once the plasma cutter shows up, I can start cutting out like engine mounts and stuff like that. But this is the basic layout of the frame. Let's look at where our seat's gonna sit. Once it goes sprocket driven, I'll have a little bit more room to play with here. I'll put a spacer in there. It'll work out really good. Now we can kind of figure out how we want our seat to sit. Now we don't have a whole lot of room between the frame and that tire there. So what I'm gonna do is basically, I think, since I want to kind of sit inside without losing my ass, a seat something like this, where it kind of follows the contour and it still clears the seat. You don't need a whole lot of room, but basically just enough to keep your ass from falling on the tire. It's gonna really be sitting inside of this fucking thing, which is what I want. So this is our frame. I'm a glass half full type of gal. So this should give you guys a pretty good idea of what the bike's gonna look like when it's done. It's pretty low. I freaking love how low it is. I mean, shit, that is disgustingly low. So I'd like to have like a very small little hoop seat that just kind of barely goes over the tire. That way you kind of sit more inside of the bike rather than on it. I prefer that style. That's how the magnet is. But yeah, so like I said, I'm waiting on the plasma cutter, so I'm probably gonna put this project aside for a couple of days and just kind of kick back and relax. I got a bunch of videos I still need to edit and upload, including this one. But we've made a lot of progress. I actually can't believe how much progress we've made the past couple of days just working on this shit, you know? But hell, we're starting to have a freaking motorcycle. So this is where we're gonna end this episode. Next episode, we're going to be finishing all the welds, welding the frame up completely. Right now, it's just basically tacked together. Welding the engine mounts to it, trying to figure out that, trying to line up the sprocket with the engine itself, welding the seat up, and from then, after that, it's powder coat and the bike gets put together. It's very simple, but I'm going to be doing a lot of practicing on welding before I go full balls deep into the welds, and I'm also going to make sure everything lines up good before I just weld it all together. Again, thank you, a special shout out again to Dashub for making this bike build possible. And then another special shout out to Woodward Fab for sending out the tools. They sent out the tube bender and the tube notcher, and they're also sending out the plasma cutter too. So go check them out. They've got some really awesome tools for such a great price. Yeah, well, I'm building a motorcycle, so that's a thing. What the fuck am I doing?